The alarm sounded through the USS Horizon like a scream in the night. Red lights flashed as crew members rushed to their stations. Commander Jack Reeves gripped the arms of his captain's chair and took a deep breath. "Status report," he said, his voice calm despite the chaos. Lieutenant Samantha Winters looked up from her screen. Her fingers moved quickly over the display as she analyzed the data. "Sir, we have 5 unknown vessels approaching at high speed. They don't match any known design." Jack nodded. After 3 years exploring the outer reaches of known space, they had finally found what Earth had been searching for: alien life. But first contact was always dangerous. "Open all communication channels. Broadcast our standard greeting in all frequencies," Jack ordered. The bridge fell silent. The only sounds were the soft beeps of the equipment and the hum of the ship's engines. Minutes passed. The alien ships moved closer, their sleek shapes like dark arrows against the stars. "Still no response, sir," Samantha said. Her brown eyes showed worry, but her voice remained steady. "Keep trying," Jack said, "and put the ship on yellow alert. I don't want to seem threatening, but I won't leave us defenseless either." The alien ships formed a half circle around the horizon. They were larger than Earth's ship with sharp edges that looked like weapons. Jack studied them on the main screen, trying to guess their intentions. Then one of the screens flickered. A face appeared. At least Jack thought it was a face. It had 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Its skin was gray with blue markings. 2 slits opened when it spoke, revealing sharp teeth. "Unknown vessel," the alien said in a rough voice. The ship's computer was translating, though the words came out strange and slow. "You have entered Zarathi space. Identify yourself or be destroyed." Jack stood up straight. This was the moment human history would remember. "I am Commander Jack Reeves of the United Earthship Horizon. We come in peace, seeking friendship with other intelligent life." The alien's 4 eyes narrowed. "Peace? Friendship? Strange words from a species we do not know. The Zarathi do not trust easily." "Trust must start somewhere," Jack said. "We offer knowledge and trade. We have much to learn from each other." The alien, who called himself Commander Vexthal, seemed confused by Jack's words. In Zarathi culture, new species were either threats to destroy or weaker beings to rule over. The idea of equal exchange was foreign to them. Samantha moved closer to Jack. "Sir, I'm picking up chatter between their ships. They're discussing whether to attack us or not." Jack nodded slightly to show he heard her. He kept his eyes on Vexthal. "We understand your caution. As a show of trust, I invite you aboard our ship. Or if you prefer, I will come to yours with a small team." This offer surprised the Zarathi commander. After a long silence, he replied, "You would place yourself in our power? That is either great courage or great foolishness." "Sometimes they look the same," Jack said with a small smile. 3 hours later, Jack stood in the Horizon's meeting room with Samantha and 4 other crew members. The air felt thick with tension as they waited for their guests. When the Zarathi delegation entered, Jack was struck by their size. Vexthal stood nearly 7 feet tall. His warriors moved with the smooth grace of natural predators. Their uniforms bore many symbols that Jack guessed showed their rank and achievements. Samantha stepped forward. As the ship's xenolinguist, her job was to improve communication. "Welcome aboard the Horizon," she said, her translator changing her words into the harsh sounds of the Zarathi language. Vexthal looked around the room, his 4 eyes missing nothing. "Your ship is smaller than ours, yet your technology is interesting, different from what we expected." "We have much to share," Jack said, "and much to learn." What neither Jack nor Samantha realized that day was that this meeting would change not just human history, but Zarathi society forever. The simple human values they took for granted would prove more powerful than any weapon in their arsenal. 6 months after first contact, the human delegation stepped off their shuttle onto the hard, gray surface of the Zarathi homeworld. Dr. Alex Bennett felt the stronger gravity pull at his muscles as he looked up at the pale green sky. Beside him, engineer Kate Miller adjusted the small breathing device on her collar. The air here was safe for humans, but had less oxygen than they were used to. "Remember," Alex whispered to the group, "show respect, but not weakness. The Zarathi value strength above all else." Kate nodded, her eyes wide as she took in the massive stone buildings that surrounded the landing area. Everything about the Zarathi world seemed built to last forever, with sharp edges and little decoration. A group of tall Zarathi approached, led by an official wearing elaborate armor with blue markings. "I am Sub-Commander Tezral," he said through a translator device. "You will follow me to your quarters. The High Command will see you tomorrow." As they walked through the capital city, Alex noted how the Zarathi moved aside for the warriors, but hardly looked at the smaller, thinner aliens, who scurried about doing various tasks. These were the Morathi, he had learned, a species conquered long ago and now serving as workers for the Zarathi. Their quarters were simple but comfortable by human standards. Once alone, Kate pulled out her equipment and began testing the air and water. "The pollution levels are worse than we thought," she said, studying her readings. "No wonder they agreed to our environmental help. Their atmosphere is slowly becoming toxic." The next morning, the humans were led to a massive hall where 5 senior Zarathi commanders sat on raised platforms. Commander Vexithal, whom they recognized from the first contact videos, was among them. "Humans," Vexithal's voice echoed in the hall. "You have been allowed here because your technology may be useful to us. You will share your environmental methods with our scientists and learn your place in the greater galaxy." Alex stepped forward. "Thank you for welcoming us to your impressive world. We hope this exchange will benefit both our peoples." One of the other commanders made a sound like rough laughter. "Benefit both? You misunderstand your position. We allow you here because we choose to." Alex kept his face neutral despite the insult. This was how diplomacy worked, small steps forward through difficult terrain. Later that day, Kate's team was shown to the Environmental Control Center, a huge facility filled with machinery and staffed by both Zarathi scientists and Morathi workers. "Your atmosphere filters are outdated," Kate explained to the chief scientist. "We can help you design systems that remove toxins without destroying helpful compounds." The Zarathi scientist looked doubtful. "Your world is soft and green. Ours has always been harsh. Your methods may not work here." "We can adapt them," Kate said with confidence. "That's what humans do best." As Kate explained her ideas, she noticed a Morathi worker listening closely while pretending to clean nearby equipment. When their eyes met, the Morathi quickly looked away. That evening, the human delegation shared a meal together in their quarters. The food was shipped from their own supplies since Zarathi diet contained metals that would poison humans. "Did you notice how they treat the Morathi?" Alex asked the group. "Like they're not even people." Kate nodded. "One of them was assigned to help me carry equipment. When I said thank you, he looked shocked like no one had ever thanked him before." "That's because no one has," said Ben Howard, the security officer. "In their culture, the strong rule the weak. Saying thanks to someone beneath you makes no sense to them." Kate frowned. "Well, it makes sense to me. And I'm not going to stop being human just because I'm on their world." None of them realized then that this simple cultural difference, the human habit of treating everyone with basic kindness, would soon plant dangerous seeds in the rigid soil of Zarathi society. Kate worked late in the environmental lab, checking readings from the new air filters. Most of the Zarathi scientists had left hours ago, leaving only a few Morathi workers to clean up. She noticed one of them watching her with large, curious eyes. This was the same worker who had been assigned to her team earlier. When Kate smiled at the Morathi, the small gray alien quickly looked away. But a few minutes later, Kate found the worker standing closer, pretending to clean the same spot, over and over. "Hello?" Kate said softly. "My name is Kate. What's yours?" The Morathi froze, clearly surprised to be spoken to directly. After a long pause, a quiet voice replied, "I am called Lirnak." "Nice to meet you, Lirnak. Would you like to see what I'm working on?" Lirnak looked around nervously to make sure no Zarathi were watching. "It is forbidden for me to speak with you unless given orders." "Well, I'm ordering you to come look at this," Kate said with a gentle smile. "I could use another pair of eyes." Slowly, Learnak moved closer. Kate showed the Marathi the readings from the air filters and explained how the new system would help clean the planet's atmosphere. To her surprise, Learnak asked several intelligent questions. "You understand environmental science?" Kate asked. "Marathi are taught only what we need to serve," Learnak said quietly. "But I listen when the masters speak, I learn." Kate felt a mix of sadness and admiration. "Would you like to learn more?" Over the next few weeks, Kate made a habit of working late. Each night, Learnak would come to help her, and Kate would share not just scientific knowledge, but stories about Earth. She brought extra food from the human supplies and was shocked to learn that Marathi workers were given only the minimum needed to keep working. "Have your people always served the Zarathi?" Kate asked one evening as they shared a meal hidden behind tall equipment. Learnak's large eyes grew sad. "No. My grandparents told stories from their grandparents. Once, Marathi had our own world. Zarathi came with weapons. Those who fought died. Those who lived became servants." Kate felt anger rise in her chest but kept her voice calm. "That must be hard to bear." "It is the way of the galaxy," Learnak said simply. "Strong rule weak." "Not where I come from," Kate replied. She pulled out a small device and showed Learnak images of Earth, people of different colors and sizes working together, children playing, families sharing meals. "In these images, who is master and who is servant?" Learnak asked, confused. "Neither. On Earth, people are different but equal. We help each other because we choose to, not because we're forced to." Learnak stared at the images for a long time. "This cannot be real." "It is real," Kate assured her. "And there are many worlds like Earth in the Human Alliance." Word spread quietly among the Marathi. Soon other workers found reasons to be near the humans. Dr. Alex noticed how a Marathi would pause slightly when passing him, as if hoping for a kind word. The human medical team shared basic medicines with sick Marathi workers, something the Zarathi never bothered to do. One day, Kate arrived at the lab to find Learnak missing. When she asked another worker, the Marathi whispered, "Learnak was seen, talking too much with humans, now works in deep mines." Kate felt cold fear. Had she caused this? That evening, she told the human delegation what happened. "We can't interfere with their culture," Alex warned. "Our mission is too important." "Their culture?" Kate's voice rose. "You mean slavery? Treating thinking beings like tools?" Alex sighed. "I don't like it either, but we're guests here. We can't change their whole society." "Maybe not," Kate said, her mind already forming plans. "But we can show them another way is possible." What neither Kate nor Alex realized was that simple acts of kindness were already causing ripples throughout the rigid Zarathi Empire. Ripples that would soon become waves. 1 year after first contact, human medical teams were finally allowed to set up a small clinic on the Zarathi homeworld. Dr. Ryan Garcia unpacked supplies in the makeshift hospital, happy to finally put his skills to use. The Zarathi had been reluctant to accept human medical help, proud of their own doctors and healing methods. "Remember," Captain Lisa Warren told the medical team, "we only treat patients the Zarathi send to us. We follow their rules while we're here." Ryan nodded, but something inside him rebelled at the thought. As a doctor, he had sworn to help all who needed care. Still, he understood the importance of diplomacy. The first patients arrived that afternoon, Zarathi warriors with battle, injuries from training or border conflicts. Ryan and his team worked efficiently, using both human medicines and techniques that worked with Zarathi biology. "Your methods are strange," one warrior said, as Ryan closed a wound with a special healing gel, instead of the painful heat sealing the Zarathi doctors used, "but effective." "Medicine shouldn't cause unnecessary pain," Ryan explained. "Healing is our goal, not proving toughness." Word spread quickly about the human doctors who could heal without pain. More Zarathi came to the clinic each day. Ryan noticed that all the patients were warriors or scientists, the upper classes of Zarathi society. On the 5th day, as Ryan was finishing his shift, he heard a commotion outside. A Marathi worker had collapsed near the clinic, clearly ill with the lung disease that affected many who worked in the industrial areas. Without thinking, Ryan rushed outside with his medical kit. He knelt beside the sick Marathi and began treatment. A crowd gathered to watch the strange sight. A human doctor on his knees in the dirt helping a mere worker. "What are you doing?" A harsh voice cut through the murmurs. A Zarathi commander pushed through the crowd. "This clinic is for warriors and citizens, not workers." Captain Lisa stepped between Ryan and the angry commander. "Dr. Garcia treats all patients who need help. That is our way." "Not on our world," the commander growled. "Workers who cannot work are replaced, not healed." Lisa stood her ground. "Then we have a problem. Human doctors don't choose who deserves care based on their rank or job. If we cannot practice medicine, according to our ethics, we will close the clinic and leave." The commander's four eyes blinked in confusion. These humans were threatening to withhold their valuable medical help over a single worthless worker? It made no sense in the Zarathi view of the universe. Among the watching crowd was Sub-Commander Tezral. He had been studying humans since their arrival, fascinated by their strange ways. Now he watched as the human doctor gently helped the Marathi worker to his feet and led him into the clinic, ignoring the commander's protests. Later that evening, Tezral visited the human quarters. "Your actions today have caused much discussion among our people," he told Lisa. "I hope it doesn't damage our relationship," Lisa replied carefully. Tezral tilted his head. "I wish to understand. Why risk conflict over one worker? There are thousands more to replace him." "Because each life has value," Lisa explained. "A person's worth isn't measured by their usefulness or rank." "This is not a practical view for survival," Tezral argued. "Actually, it is. Humans were once divided like your society. Those with power kept it from others. But we found that when all people can reach their potential, everyone benefits. Our society grew stronger, not weaker, when we learned to value each person." Tezral was quiet for a long moment. "These ideas are dangerous." "Ideas often are," Lisa agreed. "Especially the good ones." The next day, the Zarathi High Command issued new orders. Human doctors could treat Marathi workers, but only after all Zarathi patients were seen first. It was a small concession, but it marked the first time in centuries that Marathi were given any consideration at all. Ryan didn't understand the significance of this change, but Tezral did. As he watched more Marathi quietly line up outside the human clinic each evening, he knew that something fundamental was shifting in his society. Human trade ships began visiting Zarathi colonies 6 months after the medical clinic opened. They brought goods to sell, but also carried something more powerful: human culture. On the mining colony of Thax 4, Joe Fuller unloaded crates from his small trading vessel. Unlike the official Earth diplomats, Joe was just a regular businessman looking to make an honest living. He traded Earth metals and fabrics for Zarathi technology and minerals. "What is this?" asked the Zarathi port official, pointing to a small device Joe had included as a gift. "That's a music player," Joe explained. "It has songs from 50 Earth cultures. A gift for allowing me to trade here." The official examined the device with suspicion, but accepted it. By Joe's next visit a month later, copies of human music had spread throughout the colony. Zarathi youth were particularly fascinated by the emotional songs so different from their own military chants. On another colony, Linda Powell showed a group of Zarathi children a simple Earth game called soccer. To the watching Zarathi adults' shock, she included Marathi children in the game. More shocking was how the game required players to work together regardless of species or status. "This game makes no sense," complained one Zarathi observer. "The strongest players should dominate the field and score all points." "But then it wouldn't be fun for everyone," Linda replied. "And the point is for everyone to enjoy playing." The idea that fun should be for everyone, not just the strongest, was completely foreign to Zarathi thinking. Human books, stories, and history began circulating through Zarathi space. Although the Zarathi military tried to control this flow of information, they couldn't stop it completely. Trader ships arrived at every port, and each carried pieces of human culture along with their goods. Commander Vexithal called an emergency meeting of the Zarathi High Command. "These humans pose a greater threat than we realized," he said. "Not through weapons, but through ideas." "What harm can stories and songs do?" asked one younger commander. "Yesterday, a group of Marathi on the southern continent refused to work," Vexthal replied. "They did not fight or run away. They simply sat down and demanded better food and rest periods." The council chamber grew quiet. Such behavior was unheard of. Marathi had always accepted their place. When questioned, their leader spoke of something called peaceful protest learned from human history. They quoted a human named Gandhi, who defeated a more powerful enemy without lifting a weapon. Sub-Commander Tezral listened with growing concern. He had studied human history since their arrival and understood what was happening. "The Marathi are using human methods to challenge our authority." "Exactly," Vexithal said. "We must stop this human corruption before it spreads further." That evening, Zarathi soldiers surrounded the protesting Marathi. The High Command expected the workers to surrender immediately when faced with armed warriors. Instead, they linked arms and continued sitting peacefully. The confused soldiers asked for instructions. Their usual methods, threats and force, seemed wrong against enemies who offered no resistance. Before orders came from the High Command, someone began recording the scene with a communication device. The images spread quickly through secret networks, Marathi sitting calmly while armed Zarathi soldiers stood uncertainly around them. When the soldiers finally used force to end the protest, those images spread too. In his private chambers, Tezral watched the recordings with troubled thoughts. He had been raised to believe that power came from strength and fear. Yet these weak Marathi, using human methods of peaceful resistance, had somehow seemed more powerful than armed warriors. On Earth, Ambassador Paul Nelson received an urgent message from the Zarathi High Command. All human cultural exchange was to cease immediately. Only official diplomatic and scientific missions would be permitted to continue. "They're afraid," Paul told his aide, Marie Chen. "They've realized that our most dangerous export isn't our technology." "What is it then?" Marie asked. Paul looked at the message again. "Hope. We've given the powerless hope that things can change, and there's nothing more dangerous to a system built on fear." The neutral space station orbiting the gas giant Krell was chosen for the emergency meeting between humans and Zarathi. Its large meeting room had windows facing the swirling purple and blue clouds of the planet below. Ambassador Paul Nelson stood at these windows, watching a small transport ship dock. Behind him, his aide Marie Chen arranged data tablets on the conference table. "They're sending their top military leaders," Marie said. "Not a good sign." Paul nodded. In the 2 years since first contact, he had learned that the Zarathi respected strength above all else. "They think we're attacking them. They just can't see the weapons." When the Zarathi delegation entered, Paul was surprised to see Commander Vexthal himself leading the group. His blue facial markings had new patterns showing his rise in rank since their last meeting. "Ambassador," Vexthal said, not bothering with pleasantries. "You know why we are here." Paul gestured to the table. "Please sit. Let's discuss your concerns." The Zarathi remained standing. "There is nothing to discuss. Your people must stop spreading your ideas among our worlds. Your ships will stay away from our colonies. Your words and images and music will no longer poison our society." Marie glanced at Paul, who kept his face calm. "Commander, we cannot control what our people think or create. Freedom of expression is central to human society." "Then our societies cannot exist together," Vexthal said flatly. "You will restrict yourselves to official channels only, or you will be considered enemies of the Zarathi Empire." Paul took a deep breath. "That would be a mistake. Our cultures have much to offer each other." "Your culture offers chaos," another Zarathi officer said. "The natural order is being challenged because of your interference." Before Paul could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A voice came over the speakers. "Security alert. Unauthorized persons in Section 4. All personnel take safety positions. The Zarathi officers reached for their weapons. Paul raised his hands to show he was unarmed. "This isn't our doing," he said quickly. The doors burst open and 5 Marathi rushed in, carrying makeshift weapons. They looked desperate and afraid. "Freedom for Marathi," one shouted. "Humans will help us." Everything happened very fast after that. The Zarathi guards raised their weapons. Paul jumped between them and the Marathi intruders. Marie pulled a young Zarathi officer out of the way as one of the Marathi swung a metal pipe toward him. The young officer was Kelnar, Vexthal's son, who had been standing quietly behind his father. His eyes widened in shock as Marie placed herself in danger to protect him. Security forces rushed in and subdued the Marathi attackers. When the chaos cleared, Paul found himself bleeding from a cut on his arm. Marie was helping the young Zarathi officer to his feet. Vexthal looked at the humans with confusion. "You protected us. Why?" "Because that's what humans do," Paul said simply. "We don't want anyone to get hurt, Zarathi or Marathi." Later, as medical staff treated the minor injuries, Paul learned that the Marathi attackers were from a radical group who believed forcing conflict between humans and Zarathi would lead to human intervention on behalf of all Marathi. "They misunderstood us," Paul told Marie quietly. "They thought we would support violence." In the station's security center, Vexthal watched recordings of the attack. He replayed the moment when the human female, Marie, had pulled his son to safety while placing herself in danger. It made no sense in the Zarathi worldview. That evening, Vexthal requested a private meeting with Paul. "Your actions today were unexpected," the commander said. "In your position, I would have let my enemies fight each other." Paul shook his head. "We don't see you as enemies, Commander." "Perhaps not," Vexthal said, "but many on our high command now see you as a threat worse than any military force we have faced. Your ideas are changing our society in ways we cannot control." "Change doesn't have to be feared," Paul said. Vexthal's 4 eyes fixed on Paul. "The High Command has voted. We are preparing our fleet. Unless your people restrict their activities as we demand, we will have no choice but to eliminate your presence from our space completely." As Paul listened to the threat of war, he wondered if humanity's greatest strength, their compassion, had just led them to disaster. The huge Zarathi warships moved into position around their home planet. Their sharp, blade-like shapes blocked the stars as they prepared for possible war against humanity. Inside the main command ship, Vexthal studied tactical displays showing human positions throughout Zarathi space. "The humans have only 6 military vessels in our territory," one officer reported. "Their weaponry is inferior to ours. Victory would be quick." Vexthal wasn't so sure. Humans had surprised them at every turn. "Send the final warning to Earth. They have 1 day to agree to our terms." On Earth, Commander Jack Reeves, now promoted to Admiral, sat in an emergency meeting with Earth's leaders. The room was tense as they discussed the Zarathi threat. "We should withdraw our people immediately," one official argued. "We can't win a war against their fleet." "Withdrawal might save lives now, but what about the Marathi?" Jack asked. "We've given them hope for a better life. If we leave, the Zarathi will punish them severely." Before anyone could respond, an aide rushed in with urgent news. "Sir, we're receiving strange signals from throughout Zarathi space. You need to see this." The main screen lit up with images from different Zarathi worlds and colonies. On planet after planet, Zarathi citizens were gathering in public spaces. But they weren't preparing for war. They were protesting it. "What's happening?" Jack asked. In amazement, the aide looked equally shocked. "It appears to be some kind of rebellion, sir, and it's being led by Sub-Commander Tezral. On the Zarathi colony world of Drell 5, Tezral stood before thousands of Zarathi and Marathi." His voice carried across the crowd. "For generations we have believed that strength comes from domination," he said. "We have conquered, we have ruled, we have forced others to serve us. But humans have shown us another kind of strength, the strength that comes from working together, from treating all beings with dignity." The crowd murmured. Such words were dangerous. Such ideas went against everything in Zarathi culture. Our leaders prepare for war because they fear these ideas, Tezral continued. They are right to fear them. These ideas will destroy the old Zarathi Empire. But from its ashes, we can build something better. Similar scenes played out across the Empire. Young Zarathi officers who had worked with humans joined the movement. Scientists who had learned from human colleagues spoke out. And everywhere Marathi joined not with weapons but with the tools of peaceful resistance they had learned from human history. On 3 major colony worlds, the local governments announced they would no longer follow the High Command's orders. They wanted peace with humans and equality for Marathi. In his command ship, Vexthal received the news with disbelief. How is this possible? Who has organized this treason? It appears to be spontaneous, Commander, his aide replied nervously. The movement has no single leader. It is spreading through communication networks and personal connections. Then we will crush these rebels first, then deal with the humans, Vexthal declared. But when the orders went out, something unprecedented happened. Ship captains refused to fire on their own people. Military units stood down rather than attack civilian protesters. The mighty Zarathi war machine, built on absolute obedience to authority, suddenly faced a weapon it had no defense against. Questions. Why should we fight? What are we protecting? Is our way truly the best way? On Earth, Admiral Jack watched the events unfold with amazement. I never expected this, he told his staff. We didn't defeat them with ships or guns. What did defeat them? A young officer asked. Jack thought about it. Kindness, respect, the simple act of treating others as equals. These turned out to be more powerful than any weapon we could have built. The Zarathi fleet remained in orbit, powerful and deadly, but increasingly confused about who exactly was the enemy. It wasn't the humans. They hadn't fired a single shot, and it couldn't be their own people, the very ones they were sworn to protect. As the hours passed, more Zarathi ships declared their neutrality in the conflict. Vexthal watched his war plan crumble without a battle being fought. 2 years after the failed war against humanity, the Great Hall of the Zarathi capital looked very different. Where once only high-ranking warriors had been allowed, now representatives of all classes and species sat together. At the center table, Commander Vexthal sat beside Admiral Jack Reeves, both older and perhaps wiser than when they first met. I never thought I would see this day, Vexthal said quietly as they watched Zarathi and Marathi delegates discussing new laws together. Our empire stands, but everything has changed. Jack nodded. Change isn't always easy, but sometimes it's necessary. The transition had not been smooth. Some Zarathi military leaders had tried to stop the reforms by force. Fighting had broken out on 3 worlds before the old guard finally accepted that they could not turn back time. Too many of their own people wanted change. Now Vexthal led the Transitional Council, working to build a new government that represented all people in the empire. It was a position he had never wanted, leading changes he had once fought against. I still don't understand how this happened, Vexthal admitted. We were stronger. Our fleet was ready. Our warriors were prepared to fight. But against what? Jack asked. Ideas can't be destroyed with weapons. On the other side of the hall, Kate Miller sat with Lirnak, who now served as a representative for her people. Kate had returned to the Zarathi homeworld as soon as travel was safe again. She had been overjoyed to find her friend alive and now free to pursue knowledge openly. Your people changed everything for us, Lirnak said. Without firing a single shot, Kate smiled. We didn't do it on purpose, you know. We were just being human. That was enough, Lirnak replied. In another corner, Dr. Ryan Garcia worked with a mixed team of Zarathi and Marathi medical students. The new government had opened education to all citizens regardless of species or class. Old barriers were falling daily. The wound must be cleaned before applying the healing gel, Ryan explained to the group. Preventing infection is as important as closing the injury. A young Zarathi raised his hand. But our traditional methods teach that pain during healing builds character. Is this not true? Pain has no medical value, Ryan said firmly. Compassion during treatment helps patients recover faster. This is scientifically proven. The idea that compassion could be a strength, not a weakness, was still new to many Zarathi. But they were learning. Later that day, Jack and Vexthal signed a new treaty between Earth and the reformed Zarathi government. The document guaranteed rights for all beings in both civilizations and established trade and cultural exchange programs. As they finished the ceremony, Vexthal said something that surprised Jack. "You have destroyed us, you know." Jack looked, confused. "Your civilization seems very much alive to me." "The old Zarathi Empire is gone," Vexthal explained. "Our beliefs about strength and power, our entire way of seeing the universe, destroyed. Not by your weapons, but by your kindness. By treating the weak as equals, by showing compassion to those beneath you, you undermined the very foundation of our society." Jack considered this. "And yet here you are, helping to build something new." "Because I finally understood something," Vexthal said. "Your kind of strength, the strength that comes from lifting others up rather than pushing them down, is greater than anything we had built. You proved that kindness can be more destructive than any weapon." 5 years later, a school opened on the Zarathi homeworld. In one classroom, young Zarathi and Marathi students sat together, no longer divided by species or class. Their teacher, Eric Collins, pointed to pictures showing the first meeting between humans and Zarathi. "Today we'll learn about how our peoples met," Eric said, "and how simple acts of kindness changed an entire civilization." A small Marathi child raised her hand. "Is it true humans didn't mean to change us?" Eric smiled. "Sometimes the greatest changes happen not because we plan them, but simply because we stay true to who we are."